Welcome. You're watching David the Real Midnight, and this is a topic that the topic I will be addressing in this video is a topic that has been debated and talked about kind of internationally, but mostly in the Americas. Uh, Very much is it whether we can depict Christ as white, black, or Asian. Uh, we see these kind of depictions online. We see people debating about these depictions. We see people saying that in fact statues of white Jesus should be toppled out, and this has been an ongoing debate. And as an Orthodox Christian, I want to kind of talk about this, what I think about it, and get into. So we have three different depictions of Christ as Chinese, Aryan, and black. Believe it or not, this depiction is supposed to be Christ. This is from Indonesia, and I show this because not only are the more liberal-minded people are those who kind of believe in this multiracial depiction idea, but so are traditionally minded people who depict him as a kind of an Indonesian divine figure, right? And if you want to know why in Roman Catholicism there's inculturation, I talk about this in the first part of my History of Christian Theology. Again, I show this to showcase to you, even more traditionally minded people seem to not have any problems with this. And we're going to look at their arguments. We're going to look at the arguments for why this is a problem. I want to address this before I even move on. This is an image that is shown that is claimed to be the image of Christ, when this is really, no one claimed that this was the image of Christ. The anthropologists that worked on this image, it's just a model of a Galilean man that they found. And some people might say, well, okay, then Christ must have looked similar to that. Well, the problem of that is that if you take two people from the same region, you might get similar features, but you're not going to get the exact same person, right? I mean, if that was the case, then if a person from a certain region was beautiful, then you will have to assume all people from that same region are also must be beautiful like him because they look similar. So it's a really bad argument, but I've seen people genuinely get stuck up on this. And I don't know why, but they get stuck up on this. If you're wondering, if you're wondering about how Christ really looked like, we do have the answers for that in Orthodox Christian iconography. The utmost left icon here is from the St. Catherine's Monastery at Sinai. It's one of the oldest extant religious image, divine, holy image, you can say. And it's from the 6th century, right? So this is from 6th century. And if you look at the Eastern Orthodox iconographic tradition, there's a consistent trend on how Christ looked like. It's not an Aryan Jesus. It's not a black Jesus. It's not Chinese Jesus, right? But there's a consistent trend. The middle icon is a Greek icon, and the right one is a Russian icon. As I've said here, there is a consistent trend, right? You can say, oh, well, there's some variants here and there. The variants here and there are based off on the lives of the saints. There's an icon based on what Saint Paisios made, for example, where Christ appeared to him with blue eyes, right? And that's why he made an icon of Christ, depicting him as someone that has blue eyes, because he had blue eyes when he came to me, right? So those are based on the lives of the saints. That's a kind of a different topic as well. And if you're interested in the Shroud of Turin, they do look similar. The iconographic depictions do look similar to the Shroud of Turin. So in Eastern Orthodox religious tradition, you see this consistent trend. Now I want to kind of get to the arguments why there might be problems, and then I'll look at the counter arguments that you regularly hear. And I want to kind of conclude this video. It's kind of a short video. The purpose of iconography, right, religious depiction, is to represent the historic person, right? If you're depicting a saint, if that saint is, let's say that saint is Greek, we don't depict him as Chinese or whatever, right? But we depict him as someone who he is, right? We depict him as, if he's a bishop, we depict him as a bishop. If he has any distinctive features, we depict him in accordance with that. And to depict Christ as someone that he isn't leads to certain problems. It leads to the Old Testament historicity being de-emphasized, because Christ is from David's lineage, right? He is from that Abrahamic Judean lineage. And to depict him as someone who is not part of that lineage is kind of de-emphasizing that. It's historically inaccurate, as we see this historical accuracy here. And it ultimately turns Christ into a symbol that can be decorated by multiple different cultures. Now, to these arguments, you will see the following counter arguments. And I will list, and the two arguments, one of them is a strong claim, one of them is a weak claim. And when I say strong claim, I don't mean to say that it's a strong argument, but it's kind of like an argument that's, a strong statement, right? It goes for all cases. And the weak claim is more like it explains, it doesn't defend per se, it more so just explains why this happens. So I want to address the strong claim first. This argument is that, well, Christ is a universal person. You hear this a lot. Christ is a universal person. He's one of us. He's all of us, right? Therefore, he represents all groups of people, not only one specific group of people. And this is an argument mixed with truth and untruth, because Christ is indeed a universal person, but that doesn't mean that he adopts all universal. He isn't all races simultaneously. He's still a specific person in a specific time and place, and he is still of a messianic lineage. He's not someone that's outside of that messianic lineage. And I will also be looking at the logical conclusion of this argument, which I think is devastating. And then we look at the explanatory argument, which says, well, it's good that we allow them to be depicted in their local cultures because it allows people to, relate to him more. And that's why we see it. Now, that doesn't explain why it's good or bad. That doesn't really defend. It's a pragmatic argument. The problem with pragmatic arguments is that in principled belief systems like in Christianity, if we accept any pragmatic argument, we should accept all pragmatic arguments in any cases. So we should also say, well, should we then change the Bible and make it fit into other cultures as well, so they can relate to the Bible more, right? And that's the problem with it, with pragmatic arguments like these, is that they kind of sound good, but actually, if you dig close into them, they might cause bigger issues. And I want to finalize this by looking at the logical conclusions that some people might not have thought of and will like to reject. If we should depict Christ as some other race that he isn't due to him being a universal person, let's take it a step further. Because let's depict him, for example, why don't we depict him as woman, right? Why don't we depict him as a woman? Now, some crazies will say, yeah, let's do that, but I don't care about what those crazies think. But why don't we depict him as a woman? Why don't we then depict him as an animal? Because he's a universal being, after all. He is going to recapitulate all creation. Why don't we even depict him as an object, right? So if we actually took this to its logical conclusion, then why stop there? Why stop at just other races? Why not move on? Exactly. That's a problem that I think not many people have thought of. And when they realize that, I think a lot of them, if they genuinely think about it, 5 minutes, just sit in a dark room, think about it for 5 minutes, mull over it with your mind, and you'll see, wow, actually this is true. I mean, does it make any sense? Another argument is about the weak claim. Well, we should let it happen, right? If we are flexible when it comes to holy images, which is part of our Christian doctrine, we should also therefore be flexible on Christian doctrines. And ultimately, this is something that's unacceptable. We cannot be flexible on Christian doctrines. And if the tradition of the holy images is part of our religious doctrine, we can't be flexible there. We can't just say, oh, let's make an icon of Black Jesus. Sorry, but we can't do that. That's unacceptable. And that's the point that I'm trying to get at, is that Christ is a specific person, a specific point in time when he incarnate as a human being. And he is a perennial person, right? This is an argument that St. Justin Martyr makes. He is a universal perennial person. He's the fulfillment of all religions. That doesn't mean that the different religions are true. The full truth is in Christianity, but he is the fulfillment. Even other false religions, they got their logos from him, right? This is St. Justin's apologetic against the pagans and whatnot. And that's completely true. But that doesn't mean that we just say, oh, let's make him basically Asian. No. Sorry, but that's not the case. We can't do that. He is still of a messianic lineage. He's still a biblical person. And he is, at the end of the day, he's a Judean. He's not Aryan. Although, out of all the depictions, he looks closest to the white depiction, but that's not saying too much. He's not black. He's not Chinese. He's not any other race. He is a specific Judean, and he's of a messianic Davidic lineage. That's the end of the story. And I also want to say that icons are images, like Bible is another image, you could say. So it's basically a different form of what's depicting there. So if we can be flexible in iconography, we should also be flexible when it comes to the Holy Scriptures, because both of them, principally speaking, really are similar and same in that regard. So that's all I wanted to say for this video. I would like to thank you all for watching this. If you want more content like this, you can subscribe, like, share this video, donate to my Patreon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. God be with you all.